What's up, guys? We are back with another Super 7 Ultimates review, jumping into a new line of figures with Wave 2, because Wave 1 got delayed, but Wave 2 came out early, so we are taking a look at Silverhawks, finally. We're finally taking a look at Silverhawks, and in this wave in particular, I have to go with the bad guy first, so we are taking a look at MON STAR. Now, he comes in quite the different package from the norm when it comes to Ultimates. It's still that same familiar shape, but it's super big. Like, this thing is like a double wide box. It's very different from just about anything else. It comes in, of course, a slipcover. It's got MON STAR's face on the front there. It's fully chromed out. You've got the Silverhawks logo stamped on the back. Pop that thing off and you've got your big bad there in the window. He's got all of his accessories. You've got the Silverhawks logo down there on the bottom, and then the back of the box has a shot of MON STAR along with a bio for this guy. But this wave also includes something else for him, and we can't not do them both. So we're going to take a look at MON STAR and his throne. Now, the throne comes in different packaging from the norm for Ultimates. It's not the same kind of shape. It's a regular old rectangle this time around, and it doesn't include a slipcover. So you've just got similar packaging to what's inside the slipcover on the regular figures, just without one and without that the familiar shape. So you've got the throne there in the window, Silverhawks logo on the bottom, and then the back of this box has like the star field and the render shot of MON STAR sitting on the throne. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go. Out of the package are Silverhawks Wave 2 before Wave 1. MON STAR. This is the pre-transformed, the base form version of MON STAR, and I'm really excited to take a look at these guys. I mean, not just because I like Silverhawks, but because it's just been so long. Like, I want to see if these deliver. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I want to see if they deliver. And Silverhawks is something that I've always been a big fan of. I mean, it's not going to top Thundercats for me, and I never had a single figure of these as a kid. But it's something that stuck with me, and I mean, I still love watching the show. The theme song is tremendous. It has one of the best 80s cartoon intros out there. It's so good. There's so much cool stuff from this property. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. He's pretty typical Ultimates fare. There are a few areas of concern, though, just because of how he's been put together. So we've got well, let's be honest. He has more than a mane of hair. He has more hair than Lion-O does. Like, it's insane what he has. So as a result, he doesn't have much articulation. He can bobble up and down. He surprisingly has tilt, though. Like, that's more tilt than most Ultimates have. Rotation is, however, going to be a problem because he has, well, I don't know what you would describe this weird setup of hair is, but he's got a bunch of hair all over his head and his face, so he can only do like that. And I feel like that's kind of stressing it. So that's a pain point to start with. Arms go out, but only about this far. So this is pain point number 2, because he has these big shoulder pads. They just don't go anywhere. They don't have any range. They cannot go any further than that, which is a huge, huge problem. I know we've seen this with other Ultimates figures, but I wasn't expecting to see it here. We've got full rotation. We've got bicep swivel. One thing I do really like about this figure, though, is what they've done with the elbows, and we'll get to the knees also, because something that I've just been asking for a while is just to make the cuts deeper, and that's what they did here. It's still just a 90-degree bend, but it's 90. It's not some, like minuscule bend that doesn't do anything. This is at least functional. We've got hinges, which are, fully unencumbered, nothing there, and then you've got your rotation at the wrist. The torso is another problem. So you've got some bobble side to side. You've got a little backwards, but not much forwards. And he can't twist all the way either. So he can only go about that far before I feel like I'm going to start scratching something, because there is a lot of paint on this guy. There is nothing at the waist, though, really, because he is sort of, he's like locked down because of whatever's going on with the hips, the loincloth, and then this ab section that comes over top of the loincloth, because he's kind of oddly put together. Legs go all the way out. They kick forward pretty good, so they cut this loincloth in such a way that the legs can go out, because of course he has to sit on that throne. He has to be able to sit on it, and it works decently enough. Kick backward, probably more than you need. You've got a thigh swivel up there. Single jointed knees, but that's more than 90 degrees, and I know that's that's not the craziest thing in the world, but for an Ultimates figure, for what they try to do with the articulation, that's probably one of the better knees we've seen in quite some time. You do have swivel there also. And then you've got really, really good rocker, and you've got hinges down at those ankles. So I mean, he's pretty normal, but in also in his own sort of weird way, he's also more locked down than some other figures. There's a lot of stuff that I do like about him. From the hips down, I think he's fine. The elbows are great, the wrists are good. It's the head, the shoulders, and that torso. The shoulders in particular are probably the worst offender here because he just can't do much more than that, and that's not enough. He should be able to at least get his arms out to the side. He can sort of do this, but he's not nearly as menacing as he should be, you know, because of the fact that his arms can't go all the way out. Articulation aside, I think the main curiosity with this line, with this wave of figures, is the aesthetics, the visuals, the design, and do they work? I mean, do they actually sell the idea of Silverhawks? And I think, for the most part, that they actually nailed this one pretty good. He has a really, really weird sort of sheen to him, and I say weird in the sense that it's hard to sort of pin down what is actually happening here. There is definitely something over the top of this figure that makes it more metallic than it would be otherwise, which I suppose that sounds kind of ridiculous because I just can't really put my finger on what it actually is. There is definitely something on this figure that has a little bit of a shine to it, but he's also got a lot of paint too. So he has a decent amount of shading. It's mostly just shading from top to bottom. So you've got varying hits of this sort of maroon color, but then there's also this sort of brown mixed in as well. And then of course he has a lot of black, because big thing with MonStar in the show, at least in this form in particular, is he always is in shadow in a lot of ways. And it's all about shadows with the red light that is played against him. So a lot of it is shading. And I think, for the most part, they did a pretty good job here. I mean, they've even got it on the backs of the legs, the back of the arms, and the back of the waist area as well, and of course, the back itself too. So he's got a lot of paint on him, especially for an Ultimates figure. There is a lot of paint on this guy. I really like this form of MonStar. On any given day, this is my preferred version of the two because I think he just looks a little bit more evil here than just this big chunky suit of armor, but obviously the armor is a really cool aspect of him. But I really like this form. I like his head. I like the hair. I mean, the hair in the show is like crazy. It's always billowing and going all over the place. And this hair is, I mean, it's gnarly. It is restrictive, but there's a lot of detail up there, tons and tons of sculpt. I mean, it's a humongous solid piece of hair, but there's a lot of paint up there also. You've got all that red and the black, and then you've got some like sort of dinginess to the red as well, which kind of complements some of the differing shades of black and almost red that are on the body. He is definitely a slightly larger than average Ultimates figure. We'll do some size comparisons, of course, but he is also kind of plain in some ways too, because he doesn't have a lot of, he just has a lot of like musculature, basically, is what it is. So you've got some muscles, you've got some shoulder pads with some slightly pointy, spikes on the side, and then you've got some, what everybody has, right? Some forearm hair. Everybody has forearm hair, and then he's got his loincloth, which it's pretty flexible. Again, he does need to sit on that throne. He needs to be able to sit on it. I don't know if I'm going to display him on the throne permanently, but he does need to be able to sit on it, and he sits okay. We'll get to that here in a bit, but this is rubbery, and it does get up and out of its way fairly easily. It also, again, has more paint on it as well to give you that sort of fading from the black to the red. The face, though, I think is still going to be like the defining characteristic, and of course the hair along with it, because the face has a lot of paint as well. One thing that I don't think this particular figure has that some of the others have that has been recently discovered is that there's photo printing, face printing in this wave, which is a new thing for Super 7. I don't think MonStar is using it. It sure doesn't look like it anyway. But the face, either way, is fully painted no matter what. So the skin is painted, the eye patch is painted, and then you've got, his sort of weird teeth situation there also. So I think he looks really good. This is, of course, a stoic expression. There are multiple heads that we'll talk about, but this is a really solid head sculpt. It's easily up there for one of the better head sculpts and face painting applications that I've seen in an Ultimates figure in quite some time. So, articulation issues notwithstanding from his design, I do think he delivers really, really well when it comes to the visual side of things. Now, as far as some size comparisons go, let's start with other Ultimates. Since this is the first Silverhawks I've opened, let's do Thundercats. So we've got Lion-O for an average-sized Ultimates, and the Ever-Living Mumra for something that's larger. And MonStar fits in between. He's not huge in this form, but he's not the same size as, say, Lion-O or Tigra or any of your average Ultimates figures. Let's move this figure aside, and let's do a different Ultimates. Let's do a turtle. And you can really see exactly how big he is. That shows because, of course, the turtles are smaller. So he's not enormous, but he's bigger than average. And, of course, all of these are going to be eclipsed when we get the actual transformed version. And then let's do a Mythic Legions just to keep it within the same scale for now. So here is a 1.0 skeleton. And then let's do a Figuarts. Here is Superhero Piccolo. So he's a slightly taller than average Figuarts in the Dragon Ball Z line. And then let's do one more. Let's do a Hasbro figure. So we'll get a normal 1/12 6-inch figure there to give you an idea of what he looks like next to a Hasbro product. So he's definitely taller than average for Ultimates. He's going to be, a little more looming, a little larger for anything that's in the 1/12 range, but he's going to fit in really good with your Thundercats, looking large and menacing with Turtles and a lot of the other Ultimate stuff. He should line up just fine. Now, as far as accessories goes, Monstar has quite a few things in here. There's a bunch of stuff in this box. He probably has the least diverse amount of accessories compared to the rest of the figures in this wave, but you still get a lot of options, a lot of different parts as far as heads, hands, things like that. So to start with, we do get, well, a bunch of hands. He's got these sort of like clawing, but sort of loose style posy hands on him in the box. We get a set, and of course a set is 2. You get a set of fists. You get a set of gripping hands, although he has nothing to grip. You get a set of finger pointing hands, which I like these. I always love getting those. And then you get this set of sort of clawing, open, more style pose kind of hands. And then you also get one right hand that is a different kind of gripping hand. The fingers are more angled, so something would go into it at an angle. I don't know what it's for yet because he doesn't have anything that really goes in there. Maybe it's for something else we're going to get later or something else that somebody else comes with and I haven't really noticed yet. He does include 2 extra heads as well. So you get the stoic expression on him in the box. We get this big monster thing. This is a just sort of, I don't know what it's supposed to be. It's kind of an odd expression, just sort of a mouth open expression. But the hair is changed. The hair is different on both of these. So the hair is flowing to his right, your left. And the hair is just even bigger now. So this is, look how big this is front to back. It's humongous. This dude has so much hair. But it looks really good, and I'm, again, very, very happy with the fact that these heads and faces are just covered in paint. And then we also get another one with a different expression, so he's screaming, and his hair is blowing to his left, your right. But what's most important about this head is this is clearly meant to be like a transformation head because the star on his eye is open and white instead of yellow. So they did get that change down. So you do have that little bit of a difference between all of these heads, that this one does have that different paint and different color scheme. So I do like that. That's really cool. And then he includes his little buddies because, of course, Silverhawks is known for having like little buddies in the line because everybody gets a bird or something, right? So you get Sky Shadow. This is like the the Robo version where it's just like a little slug figure. So he just sort of stands like this, kind of just stands up, but it looks really good. Nice paint, nice detail. I love getting these things. It just adds a little bit of something to put with the figure. And of course, this line is known for this. This is a hallmark of Silverhawks. So I'm happy to see these. And we also get the actual like little critter version of Sky Shadow. So he's like, like a space dragon kind of thing. And he has actual articulation. He has ball pegs for his wings so they can move. It's not all that usable, but he looks good. Nice sculpt. Pretty decent paint. My eyes are kind of wonky on this one, but it's a tiny little guy. So I'm pretty happy with him overall. I just like the fact that we get these. It'll be nice to just sort of populate a shelf with a bunch of these little dudes. So he has a bunch of stuff. Again, it's not the most diverse array of accessories. It's just, little critters, heads, and hands, but it's a lot of stuff to be able to change up your Monstar. And then, of course, we have our throne to talk about. I figure the best way to start it is just to have him on. He does fit on it pretty decently. I was kind of concerned when I got him out of the box and I saw some of those limitations at the torso, that he wasn't going to sit on it all that great. And it's not perfect, don't get me wrong. Putting a figure in a chair is never exactly the easiest thing. And with something like this that does have its own limitations, just imposed on the line itself, he doesn't sit as perfectly as you might want him to, but I think he looks all right. And again, this thing has to be sized enough for the transformed version of Monstar to fit on it as well. So it's not necessarily meant specifically for him only. It is meant for something that is, arguably much larger. But I do think he looks pretty good on it. And I really, really like this throne. So, let's take him off. Take him off there. And you've got this. This thing is huge. I really can't stress that enough. It is an enormous chair. I know it does have a relatively high price point. It's what, $45? but it's a big piece of plastic. So you are getting a decent amount of stuff for your money, I think. The sculpt on it is really nice. I mean, it's got fully sculpted front and back, so there's all sorts of detail all over it. It's got tons of wash, tons of dry brushing on it. And it is a pretty iconic looking throne. Like, this definitely looks like it jumped right out of the show to me. It is kind of a weird thing to buy, you know, to get just a big chair. But it's really cool because it does complete the package as far as MonStar goes. It is a very iconic thing for him. I am really glad that they offered it separately instead of with the figure, because that honestly, I mean, it would have made MonStar, what, maybe $100 total. You're locking him behind $100 price point, and for folks that don't want the chair, well, then you're out of luck. So this is a way for people to be able to get one, either, or both. And of course, you don't have to just use MonStar with this. This certainly can work for a lot of other things. I am certainly going to be plopping a bunch of other figures down on it, but I do think it looks really good. I'm happy with the sizing. Again, its cartoon accuracy is really good. I think it looks like it jumped right out of the show, and there's a really solid amount of paint to it. It also has a good heft as well. It is not just straight hollow plastic. It does have some weight. It is going to be able to support your figures, including, hopefully, that big honkin' transformed MonStar. I cannot wait to plop his huge butt down in that chair. So overall, there's some good, there's some not so good with MonStar. I think, ultimately, no pun intended, the not so good is just the articulation. Those shoulders should be able to go out further. The torso should have more range. The head I'm not so hung up on because lots of hair and a beard on just about any figure is going to lock a head down. It's not surprising. It's not great, but it's not surprising. I do think they really killed it on the visuals. He looks good. He has a nice sculpt, good paint, lots of paint on him. I mean, I really like the fact that there's just a lot of paint on this figure. Tons of accessories, lots of cool stuff there. And then, of course, you know, if you get the throne also, that's kind of a complete set. I do think the throne is going to be better suited for the transformed version because, of course, it has to be big enough to support both figures. But it looks great with this version in it as well. He can sit in it pretty decently. And of course, it's got a multi-use aspect to it because you can use it with a bunch of other figures. It's huge. It's got great sculpt. It's got good detailing. And it's just kind of cool to have this big menacing guy sort of, you know, sunken down into this throne. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimate Silverhawks Wave 2 MonStar and Throne. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.